It. So if you're uncomfortable, then do what you need to do. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fifth episode of the PMA Weekly. This is a weekly call that we've been doing. This is our fifth week now, and we're going to keep going as far as we can tell. We might switch it up to every other week, but for now it's every week. And this is designed to be a short 30 minutes. It doesn't always, we don't always make that goal. We go past it depending on people's level of excitement and how we move through questions. Can't today. Okay, Robert's not making it today. All right. The design of the call, it is designed to be short. It's designed to be informative, as kind of preliminary information about private membership associations, private clubs, business trusts, so on and so forth. There is a clear movement happening across the country where we are, in essence, developing a parallel society. It's really fascinating to watch the collective consciousness of humanity move together simultaneously. As we're in development of this, we're finding groups across the country that are doing the exact same thing. It's fascinating how this is really tapped the collective. So there is a big movement within our immediate community, and we're involved and with connecting with the larger community. And we've got a guest with us, Mike Colomb. We're partnering together on many fronts, and we'll be talking to him in just a moment. So today we're going to be talking just briefly about what a PMA is. What is a private membership association? What are the benefits of a private membership association? Talk about some pitfalls of a lot of PMAs. There are public PMAs and there are private PMAs. So it's will help create that distinction so you do know the difference and can avoid some of those understandable pitfalls. There's a rewiring of the brain that needs to take place when you're talking about the difference between public and private. We've been so brilliantly conditioned and indoctrinated to not know that there is such thing as private and public. And that's a very deep, long subject unto itself. If you want to learn more about the history of law and how all that has come into play, there are three seminars that we just finished booking. And there's going to be live feeds on that as well. And you can go to wethepeopleunified.us. You can learn about the three seminars that are on the books. One is in New Jersey, one is in Greenville, South Carolina, and then one is in Sarasota, Florida. So the New Jersey event is November 20th. The South Carolina event in Greenville is December 4th. They're all Saturdays. And the Sarasota, Florida event is December 11th. Again, all Saturdays. They will be live. So the ones that cannot make it physically there, you can watch it on a live Zoom call. And it's about 9 hours long, and it's chock full of brilliant information to bring people back into the awareness. I say back because we've been indoctrinated out of this information over the past 100 years. So it informs you of who are the players, how we got in this position, why there's such thing as a public and a private, gives you the whole history of law. And then we talk about the solutions to move away from it. So that's what that is for. So again, that's wethepeopleunified.us. You can scope that out. It just went live this morning. So now you can scope it out. And so today we're specifically talking about PMA. So PMA structures are built within that seminar. It's one aspect of how we move from the public to the private. So let's just dive headlong into this. Mike Colomb, I love seeing your face, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, bud. How you been, man? Thanks so much for having me here today.
Yeah,
appreciate it. We're cruising through Texas right now, so we have to kind of overpass my bouncing around once in a while on the phone here. I actually have Vanessa driving for me, so we're safe, but it's all good.
Well, Mike Colomb is at the moment traveling across the country, hitting event after event after event, getting on stage, informing tens of thousands of people at a time about this movement. And he's educating people on private membership associations and in process of helping a lot of people develop PMAs. So I mean, he is the literally the road warrior right now. So, Mike, if you would just take a minute to explain your definition of understanding of a PMA and what are the basic benefits of PMAs.
You bet. So in essence, a private membership association, a PMA, is a business entity, just like an LLC or corporation or sole proprietorship. So in that business entity, it allows you to operate a business and all the structures and with all the freedoms and rights that you have in all the others, except for you now work in the private instead of public. So in the public domain, you're mandated and ruled and controlled by the federal, state, local governments, all the way down the board, right? FDA, USDA, all those guys. So what happens is they can tell you what you can and can't do. And when you don't do what they tell you to do, then they fine you and or take away your license. And that's their mode of operation. So in a PMA, in dealing with private members, that gives us the ability to associate and conduct private business according to our God-given rights and our inalienable rights from God. But not only that, but through our Constitution as well, through the 1st, 4th, 5th, 9th, 10th, and 14th Amendments. So we have a lot of protections there, and that's how we form private membership associations. It's not a new thing. I know that it's new for a lot of people hearing about them recently, but they've been around for a long, long time. And you could look back into a bunch of the states when Prohibition left, primarily Oklahoma and Texas. When Prohibition left, a bunch of the counties in those two states didn't want to sell alcohol. They wanted to be dry counties. So what they did was that the restaurants that are in those counties, they decided they still wanted to sell alcohol in their restaurants, and they became private membership associations. And they still operate the same way today, all the way through. PMAs, basically the authority that we're given in our PMAs due to our Constitution, go back to our first Supreme Court case in 1805. And we've won every single case since then, all the way through to today, whenever it goes to the Supreme Court. We lose in the lower courts sometimes, but when it gets up to the Supreme Court, actually people that understand the Constitution, we end up, providing it going forward, no problem. So basically, if you look at it like this, Vanessa and I are over at your house, Michael, and we're having a bottle of wine, having a dinner, and this is for everybody in the audience here. If you get just one thing out of this whole thing today, just get this one part of it. It's very important. And another one of our friends comes over and they bring a case of wine with them. And we sit down and we start doing a little wine tasting, and we like one of the bottles. And you and I both want to buy a bottle. And in that private association, we're allowed to do private business. And that private business today would be including him selling us a bottle of wine and us buying it. You take that onto the public world, and you can't do that without a license. You have to have a license. We own a winery, and we have a license at that winery to produce and sell alcohol, and we can only do it on that site in that winery. Okay, so now with the PMA, you can take that same application that we did where we bought a bottle of wine from our friend, and you can put it in a commercial spot downtown New York City, and you can conduct the same business there as you can in a private, as long as all the people in there conducting that business are all members of your private association. And it's that simple, right? So that's the basis of it. Everyone 100% of the time need to be a member of your association.
Yeah, and I'm learning that private membership associations, social clubs, all different forms of clubs, and even business trusts, which is a multitude of different structures in there that assist each other if you structure them properly. They've been around since Roman times. I didn't realize that myself until most recently, going into some more of the history of it. It's really kind of fascinating to track it. And business trust. So there's a distinction in there too. So there's a many different ways to structure things. You can develop PMAs in and around trusts. You can build them in and around ministry structures like 508c1as, and the distinctions are the private membership associations is what really helps protect you and keep you private from the county and the states. And the 508c1as and the trust status is what it just creates a distinction of the jurisdiction from the IRS. So there are two different ways to navigate things.
Yes.
So share some of the benefits that are part of those structures.
Sure, you bet. So one of the things that happens when you're doing forming a PMA, you can do it multiple ways. You can have a PMA that has no tax status, and still pays taxes just like a regular corporation, LLC, or sole proprietorship. So in that function, you would just be a normal operating business in that you still pay taxes with the IRS, you're still associated with that group. However, you get the protections that you need to be able to operate your business without the local jurisdiction in the federal jurisdiction other than IRS as well as the state. So in that, so when they come up with their little county health department codes and their enforcement codes and all those things that happen, it basically takes us out of that because we don't have any public customers. All our customers are private, and that jurisdiction doesn't apply to us inside of our business. So you can operate as a PMA without a 508c1a and just a regular tax status. The next level up would be to have that PMA as a faith-based organization. And you can do that in faith in God or faith in nature, depending on who you are and what you qualify for. And then with that, you can apply for a 508c1a tax status. So that's what it is. That tax status, the 508c1a, is not an entity. It's just a tax status that you're able to get. Just like a 501 isn't an entity, it's just a nonprofit organization. And then where the 508 is actually a tax exempt organization. So those two things get confused sometimes, the difference between a nonprofit and a tax exempt. And it's very important to hear that and understand that. A lot of people ask me, even if they get going, hey, so I'm a nonprofit. How do I make money? And that's a big question. I'm sure you get it all the time as well. It's like, so nonprofits, being a nonprofit doesn't mean you can't make money. You can make as much as you want. You just have to keep it inside of the organization. And you can't pay dividends. That's the important part to remember there, right? You can't pay dividends. So no K1s, no K2. You're on yourself, on your own, and keeping your money inside of your group. As the same thing applies to a tax exempt organization, no dividends, and you have to stay inside the money inside your group. So what that means is you pay yourself with a 1099. You pay your employees with a 1099, which is pretty nice. The status of that tax exempt portion of it means that you don't pay any pseudo-fudo FICA. There's no payroll payments. There's no federal or state income taxes on top of that. You don't have to collect sales tax inside your organization, and thus you don't have to hold the money and then manage it and then send it back to your state. So all those things go away.
Yep, no filings whatsoever. And the other thing that's really fascinating about it is there is a distinction between, public PMAs, public trusts, and then private trusts, private PMAs. And when you're in the public element, you need, according to the way the system functions, you need a statutory attorney to draft those documents for you. In the private, you don't need an attorney at all to draft common law trusts, business trusts, PMAs. You can draft them yourself or have somebody that has the knowledge to draft them, which is part of what we do, which is really fascinating. It's amazing how many people think that you have to have an attorney to do all these things, and you don't. You just don't. If you have an awake attorney, that's different, but those are far and few. They're coming around.
They are, indeed they are.
For some of you that just joined, we've had a lot of people just join in the past couple of minutes. Welcome to the PMA Weekly. We just have some brief discussions on what a private membership association is and what this movement is that's going on. Oops, looks like Carla's got to come back in. The movement that's going on across the country where people are being informed the difference between the public and the private domains. And essentially the public is a corporation that was overlaid on the original constitutional republic over 100 years ago, and people are starting to become aware of that. So we're reinforming people of what it means to be in the private and how to move ourselves back in there. So the private membership association, the clubs, the trusts, the business trust, common law trusts, all those are elements of being in the private. It's just knowing how to set them up and structure them properly to keep you in the private, and how you stay in the private when you're conducting yourself in business, because that's a distinction too. You have to make sure that you do stay in the private domain. That's pretty important. And we're developing protocols and standards to help people rewire themselves and how they language themselves in their business and how they language themselves when they're out in the world. You can go to wethepeopleunified.us/PMA. There's a lot of information on there to learn. There's an email address on there, which is pma@wethepeopleunified.us. If you've got deeper questions or you're interested in structuring a PMA, we can walk you through that process. Also, there's 3 seminars that we just scheduled across the country. We're working with Robert Michael, Jude Cisneros, and I'm pretty sure Mike Cologne might be joining us on a couple of those stages. One is in Middletown, New Jersey, November 20th. We have one in Greenville, South Carolina, Saturday, December 4th, and Sarasota, Florida, Saturday, December 11th. You can go to wethepeopleunified.us. All that information is on there and you can register. It's a live event, so you can go there in person. You can sit down and be in the quantum field with everybody, or you can watch it on a live Zoom feed. So scope that out as well. I want to try our best to honor our timeline as always. Mike, there are a couple of doctors on the call that I've invited, and I'd love for you to explain what you're developing across the country and what you're seeing with other doctors and nurses and how this is all coming together under the private with these new hospital or health clinics.
You bet. So in the event of where we are today, shame on our government, shame on our hospitals and our medical professionals that are mandating that we get vaccinated to be able to go to the hospital or get treatments. We had somebody the other day just in our little town, my hometown, basically go through the whole thing. She has bronchitis, got diagnosed with it. They went to do a test. She said, no, she didn't want a test. Her doctor told her to go away, and she wasn't going to give her any of the meds that she needed for a test and give her a prescription for it. I'm sorry, that there should be something wrong with that. Anyway, so what we saw is this need across the country to be able to have a place for people that unvaccinated to be able to go and unmasked. And it's we have to create our own system, right? Everything they take away from us at this point in time, we have to develop our new spots. So what we've done is we've developed the Healing Hub, which is an organization that spreads across the country. And we have many doctors, hundreds of doctors that we're working with right now to set up as PMAs. And then also hundreds of facilities across the country we're setting up as PMA established, either clinics or new clinics. We're building a network called mini hubs, which are basically, it's a frontline piece of the first responding to people that have COVID to be able to help them with the necessary frontline doctor protocols. And then the protocols that we're finding that work across the country. And includes, in that kit, it includes oxygen concentrators, nebulizers, and all the things we need up front, for the first line. As people get sicker, and that's not going to be able to help them if we've seen no response or going downhill or come to us really too sick to start with. We're putting them into facilities that are already set up to be able to help with COVID and that have more availability of other items and other durable medical goods that we need, like ozone therapies and injection IV therapies, stuff like that. So these are the processes we're setting up across the country. And we're currently working on buying a hospital that's in Kansas City. Actually, it's next to Kansas City. It's in Missouri. And it's a 500,000 square foot facility. We're going to make basically the main healing hub across America, right? It'll be our main piece, our focal point. And in that, it'll be, we're looking at doing a cancer center and a heart center and a brain center inside that facility, along with everything else that it already does. It's a huge facility. It's got a big outpatient care facility. And we're looking at doing things like that across the country, maybe not so big in most centers and most areas, but things like that across the country to help our patients, number one, and then also to be able to help put back to work our doctors and our nurses across the country that have been fired due to not getting vaccinated.
And they can function within those structures without needing an American Medical Association license or certification, which is once, and I forget the terminology, but once you go to school, just as like an attorney, once you go to school to get your law degree or you go to school to educate yourself as a physician, you are willingly signing a contract with them to get your license, but you don't have to do that. We've been indoctrinated to think we have to. So I don't know if you can explain more of how that functions and how the PMAs or the private world can protect physicians without having a license, because they're going to be taken away from you eventually.
Yeah, you bet. All the blue states right now, Oregon is a mess right now. I've got so many people calling from Oregon on a daily basis. We're just dumping them in, because they're actively going after people's licenses right now. If you are not vaccinated and or you help somebody with COVID and it doesn't have, not by their guidelines, like actually, saving them and helping them, and they don't like that, which is amazing. But at any rate, inside of a private membership association, again, you're protected the same way other businesses are protected because you don't deal with the public. All your patients are all private members. You can operate your business in a PMA without a license. What I recommend is keep your license and hold it as long as possible until they come after it. And they're going to come after it. I'm thinking within 6 months, at the very, very outside 6 months, in the blue states, there won't be any medical professionals with licenses anymore. They'll be gone. So what we've done is we've set up a system, obviously, with the PMAs. We know that that vehicle, that entity is able to house a healthcare professional in that without a license. At the end of the day, you think about it, doctors, healthcare professionals, everybody, as far as that goes, they got their license from a state that gave it to them to control them, to find them, to have them pay money, and to control them. And you didn't become a doctor just because the state said, here's a license. You became a doctor or any kind of professional with your sacrifice in school to get educated in the certificate that you earned from school. So what we've done is we know that things are going to happen to us in the near future. So we're being proactive about that. The first thing is that when doctors start losing their medical licenses, they're not going to be able to prescribe, drugs to people. And we've worked a system with that I'll explain in a moment. And the next piece of it is we're going to start losing malpractice insurance.
Yeah.
When that happens, it puts a lot of people at the, very, very, it's bad, right? So what we've done is we're reaching out, we're putting together a prospectus right now to a couple big investors that we're going to have them build a brand new, basically a malpractice insurance company that's going to be available for all doctors that lost their license, or any medical professionals that lost their license in the entire United States due to not being vaccinated. There's going to be other reasons why people lose their licenses or whatever. We're going to look at those. And we can't say that everyone's going to get this insurance through this company, and even the ones that have lost the license for not being vaccinated, everybody's going to be vet by these guys because they're going to insure them. They need to know what they're doing is the correct thing. So, but we're going to have that system out there. The other one is we're going to lose our pharmaceuticals, and we know that. So right now we're working with compounding pharmacies and turning them into PMAs, and all other pharmacies turning them into PMAs. So we're going to be able to continue that flow of product for quite some time. As we get going and get together our actual deal of what we're doing is to basically, we're putting together a network across the country to grow all of our own pharmaceutical products and then bring those back in and then have them compounded and then capsulized in multiple different spots across the country. So we'll continue to have our free flow of medical needs that we have. And we're also working with supplement companies to be able to do the same thing. So we're going to guarantee that they free flow our stuff for us, or we'll go grow our own product, because everything that we need, we can grow. And it's all natural, right? We have natural herbs. Instead of, when you've got a headache, instead of you want to take an aspirin or ibuprofen, there's an herb for that, right? All these things, there's products that we can grow in our local communities to help out, and then also nationally, so we can help out basically the pharmacies that will be in place in the future to be able to get their needs done, to be able to supply the drugs that they need to go downstream to their patients. So that's kind of twofold protection that we've got going. Actually threefold: the PMA, the malpractice insurance, and then the pharmaceutical. So we're kind of thinking about everything. If anybody ever has any questions about different areas that we don't discuss, I'm all ears all the time. I want to hear about everything constantly and how we can make things better and know that we've got these systems out there in place. At the end of the day, we have trillions and trillions of dollars inside this group of our new parallel society, right? Which I've made the Renegade Nation to be able to house that whole group, and then groups like the House of Marcus doing the same thing. And then I talked to 2 different people in the last 2 days that are doing the same thing, and we all need to be a part of each other's groups, and we all need to be there to support each other. The entire United States are stranded, right? Parallel society. People understand that our loss, lots of the loss. They don't understand what we're doing. They're going to be in despair because they have a loved one in the hospital and they are going to get forced to get vaccinated so they can go see them. And we have a solution, guys. That's the big part of it, is that there's something here for us. And the big picture of the Renegade Nation is to have all the businesses come under one umbrella and have everybody be able to support each other.
Not sure if you can hear me, Mike, but you're cutting out. I think you're going through a dead zone there.
Yeah.
There you go. It seems like you're coming back. Anyway, just check your signal. So thank you, Mike. Yeah. So as you can tell, there's a lot going on. This is just one aspect of such a big movement. This is happening with food distribution, a re-education of people to do their own farming in their backyard, to grow some of your local vegetables. There's a big event taking place in the beginning of March in Yuba City, California. It's going to be broadcast live across the world, and it's called Farm to Forest Freedom Series. And it's going to have a breakdown of each section of society. The who's who of each section of society will be there. We have over 50 speakers coming in, and they're going to talk about how each leg of society has gotten to where it is, because we've been circumvented. Every aspect of our society, from our food to our health to our economy, our education, everything has been circumvented. So it breaks that all down, and then we talk about the solutions, how we're moving away from this. So keep your eyes and ears. I'll be talking more about that once we get a little bit further along. But that's called Farm to Forest Freedom Series. And now, if you've got some deeper questions, if you want to learn more about PMAs, if you want to move forward with PMAs, there's all different kinds of structures, from common law trust to business trust, which are pretty much the same thing, that you can build in and around PMAs. There's 508c1as. There's a multitude of structures. In the chat, which is if you scroll down the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat box. I'm going to pop the address is in there. So the email address is pma@wethepeopleunified.us. You can email me. We can give you some more information, or we can address it according to what your questions are, your level of sophistication. If you want to learn more about PMAs, you can go to wethepeopleunified.us/PMAs. There's more videos. All the past Zoom calls are on there. There's some documents you can check out. And if you want to learn about the history of law and the deeper side of some of the stuff we're talking about, of how we've gotten where we are and how we can get out of it in creating the distinction between the public and the private, you can join one of the live seminars, or you can watch the Zoom feed on 3 different dates. Again, you can go to wethepeopleunified.us. All that information is on there. And Carla, are you still on the call? Can you add those onto the I'm not sure if she's on anymore.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you would.
Could you repeat that though? Because you had cut out for me.
Oh, did I? Okay. Would you mind putting the website and the email address in the chat again,
Sure.
so everybody can access those? I want to go ahead for the next couple of minutes, just try to keep it relatively short. Mike, can you still hear me? Are you still with us? Somewhat. I think you're muted now, Mike. Okay. Any rate, let's see if we can answer some questions. I'm hoping that Mike can still talk in. Looks like you're back with us.
So, Michael, I was wondering, I put in the chat too, do you know anything about how being in a PMA and in the private domain affects being able to get government grants?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's probably a deeper question for Robert Michael. He was supposed to join us today, but he got sucked down a different rabbit hole. The whole thing about this is, once you become aware of the remedy, you have choice. And the choice is, you can figure out a way to navigate from the public into the private in a protective fashion. I don't know if there is a way directly where you can get a public government grant for a private organization. It's possible, so long as you're clear about whatever contract that you're involving yourself in with them. And that will take a very clever scouring of those documents to make sure that you're not being clawed into the public jurisdiction.
Yeah, be really careful with that, guys.
Yeah.
I have a quick question, Michael.
Yes, who's asking?
That's Richard.
Oh, hey, Rick.
Hey, real quickly, Ken, after that seminar this weekend on Agenda 21, are there, and I've been looking into how we can protect our real estate under a private PMA with estate planning. There's a real push that people don't understand, that they're going to be coming after, Mike's new hospital, everything we own. What kind of protection can we get under a private PMA estate where we put our assets into that?
Yeah, that would fall into common law trusts. But Mike, I don't know if you want to feed off of that.
Yeah, you would want to take and have the PMA. So the PMA is going to protect you from local government in their, basically the health department and stuff like that.
Oh, sounds like we lost him.
You just muted yourself, Mike, accidentally. I love technology.
I don't know how I muted it all of a sudden, but I took out the video because I was locking up a little bit. So sorry about that.
Thank you.
So anyway, with our with the you want to put your assets inside of a trust, and then you want to put your PMA inside the trust as well. So that's how you should hold assets. That'll help you, be able to maintain those without the Agenda 21 and then them taking away your assets. So be sure and get those protected properly. You can talk to Michael offline about that. Email him on his site.
Yeah.
And then we can get some other people involved with that as well. That'll help you out with that.
Yeah, there are a series of
Okay.
strategies there within, but they're all built in trusts. They're all built in trusts, land trust.
But
Correct.
and when you're saying trust, you're talking about an institutional trust using standard procedures, not a PMA trust.
Well, you can
Be a
build,
common law trust.
yeah, common
Common
law.
law trust, okay.
Yeah,
All
this
right.
is not built by an attorney. That is statutory in mindset. Anyway,
One that comes from someone who's awake.
yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
All right,
And it
so-
sounds like Mike's setting up a bunch of these PMAs. Mike, is there a way to set up a master PMA umbrella that we can have subsidiary PMAs under a master PMA and share resources and protection?
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah,
what's happening with Renegade Nation and House of Marcus, specifically that. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. When you do, so, and this is what you have to look at in how you operate your PMA. And if you're going to have other entities doing business functions under your PMA, you have to look at how much risk you can handle, right? Because when they're doing business under your PMA, then you're responsible for their business and the things that they do. So you have to protect yourself from that. So depending on how you're setting up, we can talk offline about that. And that's a great question. And you just need to be careful in how you set it up and how you do it and what you do with it.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
All right, so there's a couple, I'm going to read a couple of questions and maybe ask one other question and then we'll end the call. Brad just asked a question, which we kind of answered a little bit earlier, which is going to end up falling into a trust element. He says, I'm wondering if PMAs can protect certain building projects, regulations, and land that the planning building departments have jurisdiction over. Well, you set things up the right way, they don't have any jurisdiction over you at all. And I'm quite certain that those are built within trust. I know Robert Michael would have a lot to share on this, but Mike, do you have anything to share on that one more specifically?
Yeah, so what a PMA doesn't do for you is it doesn't allow you to circumvent those types of structures when you're building buildings. And what it does help you with, so if you have property, just spare property, you want to build a building on it, you can't tell the county, I get to do this because I'm a PMA. It doesn't work that way. They still have authority of that piece of it, unless you have it in a land trust and or possibly other entities. But in a PMA, it does not do that for you. So what it does do is if you already have a building that's in place and its zoning is different than the zoning you want for your business, they cannot tell you that you can't do it because you don't work in the private. I mean, you don't work in the public, you work in private. So you could take for instance, I've got a customer who has they rented a medical office building and a big medical building. And they've got this office and they're doing a school in it. And the city got all mad at them because they were not zoned for that in that area. And we turned them into a PMA and now they can't touch them. They've left. Those kinds of things away from following county codes when you're building.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a good question. There are a lot of strategies and they are all built within trusts and PMAs and they have specific purposes. Again, if you've got some deeper questions about those, if you're wanting to go deeper about that, or you're wanting to talk about structuring some PMAs, just email at PMA at wethepeopleunified.us. And there were a couple of comments that people had made in there about some other PMA organizations and networks. And, you know, if you know of some, please just email those to me, and then we can reach out, because we really want to conglomerate all this movement together. So again, that's PMA@wethepeopleunified.us. If you want to learn about the seminars that gets into the history of law and goes into the deeper infrastructures of how the public was created and how we work our way back into the private safely, you can go to wethepeopleunified.us, and you can check out one of the 3 seminars that we have coming up in the end of November and the beginning of December. Let's just take one more question, and then we'll end the calls. Anybody, one other person, have a burning question?
Mike, I have a question.
Yes, brother.
Okay. Yes, hi, good to see you. So you know, do the PMAs the private PMAs have to follow local, state, and federal laws? I'll give you an example. I heard about a PMA. It was a farmer in Pennsylvania who sold unpasteurized milk, which is legal in Pennsylvania, and he had a PMA group. He drove his milk product across into New Jersey and was selling his unpasteurized milk to PMA customers in New Jersey. And because selling unpasteurized milk in New Jersey is illegal, he was arrested because he was breaking, I think, a state law, even though he was in a PMA. So I guess the argument did the state have a right to do that? And did the state and federal laws apply in that situation? Even though he's selling within a PMA, he technically was breaking a state law by selling unpasteurized milk. I guess, you know, what was my question is, should that have happened or not?
Well, that's a super great question. That's one of the pitfall things. Depending on how they set up the PMAs, and unless we could investigate that, we wouldn't know the answer for certain. But there are differences between public PMAs and private PMAs. There are statutory legal PMA structures, and then there are private ones. But Mike, if you want to dive into that one, I'm sure you've got some more intel.
Yeah, so I actually have this. You're talking about Amos Miller with Miller's Organic Farm, and I actually have a copy of his PMA in my possession.
That's
I've
right.
read over, and it was set up by a company in Texas who wrote the document, who promised that they would be able to take and help him no matter what. And they wrote a letter to an attorney that they didn't support him. And he got finally attacked by the USDA and has a fine for $250,000 from the USDA. So going back to answer your question, is it right they have the authority? No, they don't.
But you just got muted
They
again.
have no authority to do this at all, 100%. But it doesn't mean they're not going to attack you. It doesn't mean they're going to not come after you. We are actually, after we're working on my case, we've got a case in Nevada County we're working on. When we're done with that, we're gonna transfer some energy over to help Amos Miller with his case. It's an Amish guy. He's been doing that not only meat cutting in the same facility for 125 years. And the perceived authority of the government thinks that he can't do that anymore because they start making rules and regulations. When he crossed that state line, it became a USDA deal. And that's how that went to court. Because they said that you're not allowed to cross state lines. But then they have to look back to the true root of the Constitution and his ability to not sell to the public, but to sell to private. And he maintained those events. So legally, he's upholding what he's done. Now it just has to be proven out. And it may have to end up going to the Supreme Court. But will he be innocent? Yeah. Is he guilty of something that he did wrong? No, he's not. He went and sold stuff to private members in his association, and you're allowed to do that across the country without doubt. So at the end of the day, he's going to come out of this.
Okay, thank you.
He just got stuck in law and action, which is just law enforcement have their understanding of things, and sometimes until we get more people to wake up and we are able to shift things enough, we're going to have to probably spend some time navigating through the court systems to brighten the awareness of what we're doing and to firm up the what's the term I'm looking for, defendability of how we're developing these things. Nothing is being lost in the court systems if they're set up properly. There are some educational, we'd call them schools, even though we can't call them schools, but just for terminologies that we all understand, there are schools being developed right now under PMAs, and they're being challenged. They're all being challenged. The county and the state are trying to pull them in their jurisdiction, and they're not winning these battles. So there's one in Nevada that we just supported a few weeks ago. And there was just Robert Michael spent about 6 hours drafting a letter, and that was sent to them, and they dropped it. They dropped it really fast when they understood that they had no jurisdiction. So there's a lot to learn here. We're learning some things as we go as well, and we're sharing all that with you as we go along. I'm gonna end the call now, and I again want to encourage everyone, if you want to learn more, go to wethepeopleunified.us/PMA. If you want to learn more about PMAs, go there. If you've got some important questions or you want to move forward, just email me at PMA@wethepeopleunified.us. And if you want to get a super deep dive, go to one of the seminars. You can learn all about those at wethepeopleunified.us. And those seminars will be live feeds as well. So there's people all across the world that'll be scoping these out. If you can't, we can only fit about 300 people max in these locations. So if you're interested and you're in the area, don't hesitate. It's definitely going to sell out. Let's see. I don't think I have anything else to share. I'm just trying to honor the timeline. Thank you all. Mike, really appreciate your time coming on. I really appreciate our partnership. Big love to you. Good to see a lot of your beautiful faces. Eric, especially, so great to see you. We have much more to talk about. I love you. We'll see you guys next week or here and in between. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Michael. God bless you guys. Have a great day.
Safe travels.
Thanks. Yep.